It's on us to keep it relevant, to keep it in people's hands and to keep it playing. But do I think that we can stand another 16 years? Like, absolutely.
Thank you guys for being here. Well, my name is Romina, as Laura told you before. I have more like, this interview is going to be more general, so feel free to answer any question, or Nick or Jake, whatever you want. I played the game, and I have some feelings about what I thought the first time that I played the game.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
16 years later to say like, do I feel the same? I'm not the same person. I'm way older. So I have a few questions related to that. But first, I read in previous interviews that the timing was important for releasing this remaster. It's also, well, it's an anniversary. It's not any anniversary, but it could be. It's just 16 years. What are 16 years? Nothing, clearly. When you decide to do this release, why did this project feel like it was the right choice or the right move at this moment?
Sure. Yeah. Nick, you want me to jump in?
You first. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons, right? So like we've been kicking it around for a while, talking about like what we could do to really make sure that we do a really great job of bringing this game to a new audience. But there's been a ton of like player demand for this. We've heard from players forever that they'd love to see classic PvZ on modern consoles. It doesn't exist on many of those consoles. And so we really looked at that as just a great and golden opportunity for us to do something, special with what we think is really a perfect classic game. I think, the other thing, like Fabian and I and all of us, we've talked a lot about this, folks really love nostalgia. It's such an important thing for people to go back and experience things that they loved at one point and things that are really beloved, not just loved. And that's where I think, PvZ, the original Plants vs. Zombies, is a beloved, it's a classic game that deserves to live, in its past form, but also in a really new sort of modern visual way across all, modern gen consoles. Nick, what's your take?
I mean, I think that's all true. I think that there's also a part, like to your point, is 16 by itself necessarily important? Not necessarily. I think 16 to us, like, there's the idea in the US of the Sweet 16 where you start driving a car and that sort of thing, which we like latch onto. But I would also say that 16 is also important sort of generationally. Like, I have kids. And so my children, I sit and play PvZ with them. And so it's also, PvZ, I think, has also become a game that when we think about a younger generation of people starting to play, or families getting together and playing, like we sit down and we play it as a family. And I think that that's another thing that I've also started to observe is like I'm on Reddit and I see from younger generations like meme culture using Plants vs. Zombies, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Why does Walnut and Pea Shooter show up so much in Gen Z and Gen Alpha memes? And so like I think that there's something really universal about it. And so not only is there a nostalgia to play it, but I think that there is still something like really universal about the experience, the appeal, everything about it. And so I think for us, it's all those things. And, we're also thinking about other things that we're doing in the brand and the franchise. And so this is a good anchor point for us to like, hey, we're still here. We're still doing stuff. Like this is not the end of PvZ.
I have a follow-up question because I have been playing a lot of remasters this year. Do you think it's a good time in the industry where people are welcoming more the idea of having remasters of old classical games, or it was just like the opportunity, the moment, and it has nothing to do with the industry at this moment?
I don't think the industry as a whole had any impact on what we were doing. We do, obviously recognize that is something that is happening, and people love those remasters. So I think we're fortunate that we're releasing this in an era where people are really looking at that. But I don't think it didn't have a bearing on our decision. I think our decision was more about, how do we do something really cool with what we have for players, for fans, and for, the potential of growing a new audience of young folks. I think Nick alluded to playing with his kids who are younger. I've been, I play with mine, they're a little bit older, but we've been demoing the game recently, and we have really seen just this new wave of people see this and just go, wow, that looks so fun and so cool. That is really a testament to the charm that is built into the brand. It's just such a charming, universe, and the characters are warm and friendly and funny, and so it's really really cool to be bringing this out at this time.
Yeah, and I guess at the risk of potentially spilling too much tea, the other thing I would say is like it's not like we just woke up earlier this year and we're like, we'll make a remaster. Like, like there's been work going on behind the scenes for a bit to do it, because like we have to seek funding and our own work and all that sort of stuff to make sure that we can do it. So, this is something that's been in the works for a little bit, and so yes, there have been remasters that came out this year, but like we've been thinking about this for a bit, and so it just kind of the way it lined up. So we're just happy that it's out more than anything. Yeah.
Well, looking back at the original game, while working on this remaster, do you have any new thoughts about what make these games just a classic? Something that made you say like, oh, this is why.
Yeah, well, I do for sure. I mean, I alluded to that a second ago. I just think the characters have so much charm. They're so spectacular. I can call out a couple of things in there that just always make me laugh. We have a Starfruit character that he's just got this little tiny tooth, and it pops every time he shoots, and it's just so funny. And we've introduced these sunflowers. We have this mode called Cloudy Day. The sunflowers fall asleep, and it just every time it happens, it makes me go like, man, this is really cool. So we captured something there. The original creators captured something really special there. I also think though that the game is it's fun at its core. It's just fun to play, and it's paced really well. It's not intended to be the hardest game ever. It really isn't. It's intended to have you sit down, enjoy it, play through it, run into some speed bumps, but ultimately succeed and feel good doing it, create your own strategies inside of it, and then replay it. And so I think, a lot of those things are, I think, just stand out to me.
I would say, like, people play games for a lot of different reasons. Like, for instance, in my own personal life, like, I play a lot of, like, what I would call very difficult, like very high concept games. But that doesn't mean that there's not a place in my heart for PvZ. And what I would also say is, like, PvZ is a game that sparks joy. It is something that you sit down and it puts joy into your heart, and it reminds you that, so much of what we do as game makers and as game players is engaging with an arbitrary rule set to have fun. And like, what does that mean to just have fun? And I think that PvZ in so many ways embodies pure fun. And so I think, is that a little too hippy dippy or like a little too whimsical perhaps, but I think that is something that it's so unabashed about. Like, why are plants and zombies fighting? And like, to Jake's point, got the little tooth. I think the thing that I always get tripped up on is in Walnut Bowling, the zombie that's got the newspaper, and then you hit him, and then he gets mad, and then he starts running, and then the exploding walnuts, and you have like the Looney Tunes moment where they turn into ash and cinders. Like, it's just absurd. I'm wearing a Call of Cthulhu shirt, so like, I love absurd things, like truly weird things. And I feel like PvZ is like, whereas Call of Cthulhu is scary, like it's the other side of it. It's this humorous, like super bizarre thing. And so I'm just talking too much at this point, but that's the way I think about it. It's just playful absurdity and pure joy.
Yeah.
Oh, we are here for that, for the too much of talking.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes.
Jake, you were going to say something, or the interrupt?
Oh, no. I was enjoying hearing Nick talk about it, because I agree with what he's saying. It is really silly and absurd, and I think that's pretty unique in games. I know there's other games that are silly and unique, and they have their own sort of way of doing humor, but like, comedy is really hard, and so when you have a game that makes you laugh, I think it's just it's pretty special.
Well, when I played the game for the first time, it was the year that I moved to this city. It was the year that I started to living alone, and it was it took me back in time when I played Replanted.
That's
It was
cool.
like, oh, I am 16 years older. My life is different, and my timing is different. I play video games in a different way. I play
Totally.
RPGs. I love slow pacing games, but I
Yeah.
also play the game in a faster mode because I was like anxious.
Yeah.
But I knew the game. It was like riding a bike. But there's a question that you kind of answered before related to the memes and everything, but audience is not the same at this time, especially with the timing. Everything has to be fast and everything has to be extremely fast in a way. Do you think this remaster will resonate more with older players like me that played the game before, or it has the same? It's going to have the same effect on these new audiences that maybe want to have things in a different way than before?
Well, go for it.
Let me hop in real quick and just say, it's a great question. So one of the things that, so to your point, we added in the speed up function. And so having watched a lot of different people play it and watched a lot of different people play it in different ways. And so, for instance, we've seen interviewers sit down and play it in like this very ultra methodical, the way they played it when they were much younger. We've seen them play it and be like, yeah, I remember this level, and they sped it up. We've seen children sit down and play it at PAX. We were able to, it was like one of our favorite moments. We had some breaks in our interview sessions and some kids like knocked and we were like, yes, please come in and play. And it was a lot of fun. But, and we saw them sit down and we watched two brothers argue about, no, put the sunflower here. And like, they were playing co-op mode and they didn't want to speed it up or anything like that. And so what I would say, at the risk of being too diplomatic, I'd say like, I think unlike before where there wasn't speed up and that sort of stuff, I think we've given all the tools to let people play the way they want to. So if you want to have the chill out, I'm going to like zen out and have like a deep flow session, or as Jake and I, because we played it so much, we were seeing, hey, can you play walnut bowling at 2.5x speed? And like, how hard is it? Like, like we were creating challenges for one another. I think that there's a lot more accessibility to play the way that you want to now. And so, yeah, I think you can. Now, I think that like then invites a question, does it meet, we're now post Souls. Like, is it going to meet the Souls difficulty and that sort of thing? I don't know that it's going to meet the difficulty that people are looking for, but again, I don't think that's the intent. It's supposed to spark joy. It's supposed to be about like this humorous exploration. And so I think if people go in understanding they can play their way and build strategies and explore and have fun, I think they'll be wonderfully rewarded. What do you think, Jake?
No, I agree for sure. I also think that, again, the spirit of what we were doing was trying to visually modernize what we truly felt was pretty perfect. So we didn't want to inject ourselves in there and say like, hey, we need to make this harder, or we need to make new characters, or we need to make it faster. Now we do have a couple of new modes that actually address this type of play style. We've got a mode called Cloudy Day mode, which is really, a fun way of bringing in weather. You may have seen that. And then we have a mode called Rest in Peace, which is a permadeath mode. It's actually still undergoing a little bit of tweaks from the.
Yeah, we're doing some tweaks there. We actually think maybe it could be a little harder. So yeah, we are. Yeah.
So I think we're going to address those folks as well. But I think again the universal appeal of PvZ is strong enough that I think folks will be excited with what they get and with the options that are in there.
Great. You said about the modes and also the co-op was something that you mentioned before. When you try to keep the game as close as the original as possible, because it's the same game, just 4K and some modes integrated, what was your initial thoughts on, okay, this is the things that we have to have in this game to make it keep modern, but at the same time, classic and original?
Well, I think you hit on, the idea of the co-op and local co-op, local PvP, I think was really important to us because again, one of the things we're trying to do is lean into the idea that this is a game that you can play with your kids, with your families, with your friends. PvZ has always had this spirit of like sitting down on the couch with your partner or your buddy and laughing and playing together, and really enjoying a bit of a chaotic experience. So we really wanted to, out of the gate, I think that's a theme for us. We really want to try to introduce, this style of gameplay that we know our players have loved to this new audience and hope that really resonates with them. And I think, we had, but if we go back to the drawing board, we did have a lot of ideas. And then we kept coming back to this North Star, I think, as Nick calls it, that was like, we need to just try to like be true to what is there. If we have, we talked about there's other things happening inside of the franchise. We've got lots of places to express certain ideas. And for us, again, we kept coming back to let's preserve what's really good. Let's be as true as we can to the original. There were a number of PVZ1 SKUs that were out there. We tried to pull the features from them that made sense. Sorry, like PVZ versions. There was an Xbox 360 version, for instance, so we wanted to pull some stuff from there. We looked hard at the DS version, and there was things that we couldn't do, so we had to leave some of those on the table. So again, really it was about trying to stay true, but also introducing a couple of new neat things that didn't like go too far out, that could use the toolkit that was PVZ1 to create new and interesting modes.
I would also say we listened a lot to what the community pointed out. We also looked at it from our own experience, which, I think in modern dev, you try to be scientific to a point, right? You also want to look for heat maps and things. But I think we also, across these dev teams, also had in our heart of hearts, we're well, that was a good mode, we should add it. I do think that for some parts of the development team, I think they looked at it and they're but we can't leave the DS modes or mini games behind. But with trying to adapt the stylus, it also, we were we don't know that that's necessarily going to make sense in all these context, etc. So I don't know. We did our best to say, again, if we're going, you said it earlier, you're it took me back to when I first moved to the city, and Jake was just talking about it. What we really wanted to make sure philosophically is this is PVZ as you remember it. And so it's it's that first time that you picked it up, and if you really were to compare them side by side, it's not, but it's that feeling, it's that moment. And so we really wanted to pick all those things where we thought that there was the highest heat, the most amount of intensity of good feelings that we know from the community and things like that, and really try to jam it in here and say this is the definitive PVZ1 in this sort of new forward-looking era of PopCap as we look ahead.
Great. Well, you said before that you had a lot of feedback from people playing the games on previews and hands-on. What was the most consistent feedback that you had besides being fun and everything that we know about the game, but you try with different kind of people, so what happened there?
Oh man, that's a great question. The most consistent feedback that wasn't it's fun and like that.
Yeah, because it was the obvious question.
No. Well, and I mean, I think it's fair. I've got an answer, but I don't know, Jake. What's your first take on that?
Well, geez. I mean, yeah. Outside of the fun and charm, I think folks have. I think they were. I would speak to the folks that played co-op quite a bit. I think folks left that going, this is really interesting and chaotic, and I can't wait to do more of this. We saw, folks playing Cloudy Day mode, having to really think about strategy before they would replay a level. So they might play once and then go, oh, I need to be more strategic here. And yeah, and I think we talked about the rest in peace mode tweaks that we're doing. I think that folks have said I would like this to be even more challenging, and so we've looked at how we can do that. So, but I don't know. We've gotten. I want to make this sound as humble as possible. I've been in games for a long time, and I've had to demo a lot of games. And a lot of games are really hard to demo. and you're trying to craft a really cool demo, or you're letting people play hands-on and you're going, no, go over there or do this or do that. The universal thing about PVZ is you can give it to folks and they just simply have a really good time. So is that a testament to us doing a really good job? I guess so. I think it's also a testament to the fact that the game just is really, truly fun. And when you give it to folks and let them play, they leave having a good time. Because if I think about all of the people we saw at PAX, for instance, which was our really big opportunity for us to have folks hands-on and watch them. We've given it out a lot, but we don't get to watch all those people play. So we were there watching intently, and I can't think of one person that left that did not have a good time or that did not laugh too, which was really quite interesting because it just reinforces what we're up to. So I don't know, but Nick, you had some time. You got any other?
Yeah, I had two, but the two that jumped to mind was I think people universally really liked Cloudy Day mode, and I think they really liked it because they liked the when you think about PVZ, one of the stated design pillars of it is it was intended to be a distillation of the real-time strategy genre. It was like, what if you were to take the hour-long real-time strategy session and like distill it into 5 minutes? And I think what the folks really appreciate about it is like, there's like a really interesting vector of complexity here, and I like the decisions I have to make in this. And so like everybody immediately sat and was like, yeah, like what am I doing here? And like I think that there was like a lot of like new brain like firing that was there. The other thing though that and again, maybe this is just table stakes, but you know, that moment when you it's a cold morning and you sit down with a cup of coffee and you take a deep breath of it, that is how everyone sat and when they first played the first level. It was that true nostalgia moment, and it was like being with a good friend, to your words you said, getting back onto a bike. It was them being like, I'm home. Like, and I think that is, again, as someone that like wants to bring joy and to see people be happy, like our job is fundamentally being an entertainer, and to see people be entertained, it is the joy that we seek. And so that was something that was really good. I have, my son is in the room. Hold on. I need you to go away. I'm on an interview right now. I'm so sorry. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, buddy? Anyway, that was something that was a real delight to see, was just seeing people feel like they had returned. And that was real consistent in watching all of their faces.
Great, guys. The idea of the remaster is also to keep the original game, alive for many more years to come. The industry changes faster, audiences change faster than it did 16 years before. Do you think you are going to need to revisit the game sooner than later? Or do you think this formula can stand the test of time again?
Boy, I don't know. We have no crystal ball to look into the future. I think that we hope that this version, you know, definitely holds up for, you know, a period of time for sure. I mean, if you look at the OG game, which still exists in many places, you can find it on Steam as a Game of the Year edition. People still love to play that. They still download it. They still are picking it up, and that version is not going away. So we're leaving that there, right? So if you want to play that version, it's going to be there. We will have Replanted in the, you know, ecosystem, and I think that it should hold up on, you know, HD platforms for a while. And we know there are new consoles on the horizon, so I don't know, will we have to put it on those? I guess we'll have to ask Nick when we get there. Nick is our big boss, so what he says we do.
Look, I would be a fool to compare us to chess. I wouldn't give us that like sort of vaunted thing, but like, look, we've stood up for 16 years. I think it's on us to keep it relevant, to keep it in people's hands and to keep it playing. But do I think that we can stand another 16 years? Like, absolutely. But it's incumbent on PopCap to continue to show people that this is what fun looks like, and to continue to make great games. And so like for us, it's not just this one time like, oh yeah, here's PVZ1. It's continue to make great games and to remind people that like, hey, we should make absurd and wonderful games on a regular basis and enjoy them with our friends and our family. And so, yeah, I think we got another 16 years if we can keep up our side of the bargain. So here's hoping, fingers crossed.
Okay, thank you so much, Jake and Nick. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And also, I really enjoyed playing the game again. It was
good. I'm so glad. Well, that was what I was going to ask. It was like, did you have all this other stuff? Did you have
fun?
What do you think? That's what we care about. Did you have fun?
Yeah, I played in solo mode. I played the regular mode, but I want to play in co-op and see if I want to murder someone else while playing the game, or if I can be chill and enjoy.
Good.
Co-op is fun because you sort of compete slightly at times, and depending on how you want to play, you can sort of like steal sun or dig up plants, and so it definitely creates this really cool thing. I'm excited for you to get a chance to check it out.
Yeah, I'm a very competitive person, and I
good.
Get very heat up on co-op games, so I'm gonna try it.
That's awesome.
Well, it was a delight getting to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
We really appreciate the support.
We really enjoyed this. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.